Jinwoo Park smiled as he lifted his drone from the workbench. 6 months of hard work had finally paid off. The sleek hexacopter was his most ambitious engineering project yet. Lightweight carbon fiber frame, custom circuit boards, and a camera system he built himself. His small apartment was cluttered with tools and spare parts, but that didn't matter now. Today was test day. He carefully packed the drone into its case and headed to the small park near his apartment. The autumn air was crisp, perfect flying weather with minimal wind. Jinwoo found a clear spot away from trees and set up his equipment. Control systems online. He muttered to himself, checking the tablet screen showing the drone's status. Camera feed active. The drone rose smoothly into the air, barely making any noise. This wasn't like the noisy commercial models. Jinwoo had designed special motor mounts and propellers that reduced sound. He watched with pride as it climbed to 50 meters, hovering perfectly stable. He tapped commands on the tablet, sending the drone on its programmed flight path. The engineering student needed aerial footage to test his new image stabilization algorithm, and the suburban neighborhood provided a perfect mix of buildings, roads, and open spaces. From the corner of his eye, Jinwoo noticed an older man watching him from a park bench. The man wore a dark coat despite the mild weather and seemed particularly interested in Jinwoo's equipment. When Jinwoo glanced his way, the man quickly looked down at his newspaper. Shrugging it off, Jinwoo returned his attention to the tablet. The footage looked excellent, crisp, stable, with none of the vibration issues that had plagued earlier tests. He guided the drone in a wide arc over the neighborhood, carefully keeping it within legal altitude limits. At the edge of the programmed flight path was a large property surrounded by tall hedges. The house itself was set back from the road, partially hidden by trees. Jinwoo remembered hearing about the owner, Mr. Do-yeon Kim, a retired government worker who rarely interacted with neighbors. Most people on the street had never even seen him. As the drone passed over the edge of Mr. Kim's property, something unusual caught Jinwoo's attention. In the backyard, partially concealed by carefully arranged landscaping, was what looked like a small array of unusual equipment. Jinwoo zoomed the camera slightly, curious about the odd-looking metal structures. "What is that?" he wondered aloud. They didn't look like typical garden features or even satellite dishes. Before he could get a better look, a warning flashed on his screen. Battery level dropping faster than expected. One of his experimental battery cells was underperforming. Jinwoo quickly directed the drone back, not wanting to risk a crash. It landed perfectly beside him, and he packed up his equipment, pleased with the test despite the battery issue. The strange equipment in Mr. Kim's yard was quickly forgotten as he headed back to his apartment, thinking about improvements for the next prototype. 3 days later, Jinwoo returned from his engineering lab to find a formal envelope waiting at his apartment door. Thinking it might be a university notice, he opened it while heating leftover noodles for dinner. His confusion turned to shock as he read the document inside. It was a legal notice informing him that he was being sued by Do-yeon Kim for invasion of privacy, trespassing via drone, and something called unauthorized surveillance of protected premises. "This has to be a mistake," Jinwoo said to the empty room, reading the document again. The language was surprisingly technical, mentioning interference with sensitive electromagnetic equipment and compromise of proprietary security systems. The next morning, Jinwoo arrived early at the university's legal aid clinic. The small office was just opening when a law student named Yunha found him waiting anxiously. "This is very unusual," she said after reading the lawsuit. "The claims go far beyond typical drone privacy concerns, and the requested damages are extremely high for a simple flyover." "I wasn't even over his property for a minute," Jinwoo explained. "It was just part of a test flight for my engineering project." "Well, something about your drone really bothered Mr. Kim," Yunha said, her expression serious. "And based on this language, I don't think this is just about privacy. There's something else going on." Walking home that evening, Jinwoo noticed a black sedan parked across from his building. The windows were tinted, but he could make out a figure sitting inside, seemingly watching the entrance. When he looked back after entering his building, the car was driving away. Jinwoo couldn't sleep that night. What had his drone accidentally captured? And why was a retired government worker so concerned about a student's engineering project? Jinwoo couldn't focus on his thermodynamics lecture. His mind kept drifting to the lawsuit and the strange card he had spotted outside his apartment building. When class ended, he hurried to the university's legal aid clinic for his appointment with Yuna. "I've reviewed the full complaint," Yuna said as they sat in the small meeting room. She spread several papers across the table. "This isn't a normal privacy case. Look at this language." She pointed to a paragraph filled with technical terms. "Mr. Kim claims your drone disrupted sensitive equipment and compromised security systems. These aren't terms people use when they're just upset about someone looking into their yard." Jinwoo frowned. "I was just testing my camera. The drone has no special sensors beyond that." "There's more," Yuna continued. "I did some research on Mr. Kim. He's not just a retired government worker. He worked for military intelligence for over 20 years before retiring, and he has connections to a private defense contractor called Horizon Technologies." Jinwoo felt a chill run through him. "Do you think that's why he's suing me? Because he thinks I was spying?" "Maybe. But the response seems extreme for a student's drone project." Yuna tapped her pen against the table. "We need to prepare your formal response to the court by next week." That evening, Jinwoo noticed his phone was acting strangely. Apps would freeze, and sometimes his calls would have unusual static. When he tried to access the drone footage from his test flight, he found the file was corrupted. "This isn't normal," he muttered, trying recovery software with no success. The next day, Jinwoo met with Professor Taho, his engineering advisor, to explain the situation. A lawsuit over a test flight. Professor Taho looked concerned. "Did you keep your drone within legal altitude limits?" "Absolutely. I programmed everything to stay within regulations," Jinwoo explained. "But there's something else. I've been having problems with my electronics since this started. My phone acts weird, and the flight data was corrupted." Professor Taho's expression grew serious. "Do you have backup copies?" "Yes, I always keep backups on a separate drive." Jinwoo pulled a small hard drive from his bag. "It's not connected to any network." They connected the drive to the professor's computer and found the footage was intact. As they watched the drone's flight path, Professor Taho suddenly leaned forward. "Wait, pause it there," he said, pointing at the screen. Jinwoo froze the image, showing Mr. Kim's backyard from above. In the corner, partially hidden by trees, was the strange equipment he had noticed. "What is that?" Jinwoo asked. Professor Taho adjusted his glasses. "It looks like some kind of antenna array, but not commercial satellite equipment. The configuration is unusual." Before they could discuss further, Jinwoo's phone rang. It was Yuna. "Mr. Kim's lawyers just filed for an emergency hearing," she said, sounding stressed. "They're asking the court to issue an order forcing you to turn over all drone footage and equipment immediately. They're claiming it's a national security matter." "National security?" Jinwoo repeated, catching Professor Taho's alarmed look. "How can my school project be a national security issue?" "I don't know, but the hearing is tomorrow morning. Meet me at the legal clinic in an hour." After hanging up, Professor Taho quickly copied the drone footage to an encrypted drive. "Keep this safe," he told Jinwoo. "Something isn't right about this whole situation." That night, walking home from the engineering building, Jinwoo spotted two men in dark suits watching him from across the street. When he changed direction, they followed at a distance. Heart pounding, he ducked into a crowded coffee shop and slipped out the back entrance. By the time he reached his apartment, Jinwoo was thoroughly spooked. He double-locked his door and pulled the blinds close. When he checked his laptop, he discovered someone had attempted to access his cloud accounts multiple times. The next morning, Jinwoo and Yuna sat nervously in the small courthouse, waiting for their case to be called. Mr. Kim sat across the room with two lawyers in expensive suits. Next to them was a stern-looking man who Yunho whispered was likely from Horizon Technologies. "This is too much for a simple drone flight," Jinwoo said quietly. "What did I accidentally see?" "Whatever it was," Yunho replied, "they're willing to use the legal system to cover it up." As the bailiff called their case, Jinwoo noticed a young woman sitting at the back of the courtroom, watching intently. She caught his eye and gave him a subtle nod before writing something in a small notebook. "Who is that?" he whispered to Yuna. "I don't know," she replied. "But I think we're about to find out just how deep this goes." The judge looked at both sides with a frown. "I'm postponing this hearing for 1 week. In the meantime, Mr. Park is ordered not to fly his drone near Mr. Kim's property again. The request to seize Mr. Park's equipment is denied for now." As Jinwoo and Yunha left the courthouse, the young woman who had been watching approached them. "My name is Minji," she said quietly. "I'm a journalism student. Can we talk somewhere private?" They went to a small coffee shop 3 blocks away. After making sure no one was sitting nearby, Minji leaned forward. "I've been investigating Horizon Technologies for my senior project," she explained. "They're involved in classified communications research, and Mr. Kim is connected to them. When I heard about your case, I knew it might be related." Jinwoo looked skeptical. "How did you even hear about my case?" "I monitor court filings for unusual lawsuits," Minji replied. "A retired intelligence officer suing a student over a drone flight. That caught my attention." Yunhan nodded slowly. "The language in the lawsuit is strange. It mentions signal interference and security systems." After the meeting, Jinwoo returned to campus and went straight to Professor Taho's lab. The professor was working late, analyzing the drone footage they had saved. "I think I know what you captured," Professor Taho said, pointing to his monitor. "Look at these structures in Kim's backyard." The professor had enhanced the image, revealing details of the unusual equipment. Several dish-shaped antennas were arranged in a specific pattern, connected to what looked like a small equipment shed. "This isn't standard satellite equipment," Professor Taho explained. "The configuration suggests it's designed to receive extremely weak signals across multiple frequencies simultaneously." "What kind of signals?" Jinwoo asked. The professor hesitated. "Based on the arrangement, it could be for detecting signals from space, but not from any conventional source like satellites or space stations." Jinwoo's eyes widened. "You mean like aliens?" "I wouldn't jump to that conclusion," Professor Taho cautioned. "But this setup resembles equipment used in SETI research, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, except this is much more advanced than anything I've seen in published research." That night, Jinwoo couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the equipment in Kim's backyard and why someone would go to such lengths to keep it secret. Around midnight, his phone buzzed with a message from Minji. "Found something important. Meet tomorrow at University Library. Private Study Room 302, 2 p.m. The next day, Jinwoo arrived at the library early. Minji was already there with a laptop and several folders. "I dug into Mr. Kim's background," she said, opening one folder. "He worked for a program called Starlight Division until 15 years ago. It was officially part of military intelligence, but its real purpose was classified." She showed Jinwoo a redacted document. "Most information about Starlight Division is still secret, but I found this reference in declassified files. It mentions monitoring of anomalous signals of potential non-terrestrial origin." Jinwoo stared at the document. So they were looking for alien signals, and now Kim has private equipment doing the same thing. "It seems like it," Minji nodded. "The program was officially shut down, but what if some members continued the work privately?" As they talked, Professor Taho joined them, bringing a colleague from the physics department. "I showed the enhanced images to Professor Sangan," Taho explained. "He specializes in radio astronomy." Professor Sangan studied the images carefully. These antennas are configured for detecting extremely faint radio signals in the hydrogen line frequency range, where many SETI researchers focus their search. But the design is unusually advanced. Jinwoo felt a chill run down his spine. So my drone accidentally photographed a private alien hunting station in my neighbor's backyard. It appears so, Professor Sangun said. And if they've gone to these lengths to keep it secret, they must have a compelling reason. That evening, Jinwoo returned to his apartment to find his door slightly ajar. Heart racing, he pushed it open. Inside, his normally messy living space had been searched. Drawers were closed, but the contents rearranged. His backup hard drives were missing. His phone rang. An unknown number. "Hello," Jinwoo answered cautiously. "Mr. Park," a deep voice said, "you're meddling in matters beyond your understanding. Drop the countersuit your legal aid clinic filed today and surrender all copies of your drone footage, or the consequences will be severe." "Who is this?" Jinwoo demanded, but the caller had already hung up. Shaking, Jinwoo called Yoonha and Minji to warn them. As they talked, he looked out his window and saw the black sedan parked across the street again. But this time, he also noticed a white van further down the road, with what looked like a small satellite dish on its roof, pointed directly at his building. Jinwoo grabbed his essential belongings and left through the back exit of his apartment building. His heart pounded as he took a series of random bus routes before finally arriving at Minji's small off-campus apartment. "You can stay here tonight," Minji said, clearing space on her couch. "My roommate is away for the weekend." Jinwoo paced the small living room. "They broke into my apartment. They're threatening me. All because of some antennas I accidentally photographed." Minji's laptop chimed with a new email. "It's from my source at the university archives," she said, opening it. They found something about Starlight Division. The email contained scanned pages from a classified project that had been partially declassified 10 years ago. Most of the text was blacked out, but one paragraph caught their attention. "Project terminated due to budget constraints and inconclusive results. Personnel reassigned. Equipment decommissioned except for items listed in Appendix C, transferred to Horizon Technologies for civilian applications." "Horizon Technologies," Jinwoo said. "That's the company connected to Mr. Kim." The next morning, they met Yoonha and a new ally, Hyunwoo, a computer science student whom Minji trusted. They gathered in a busy cafe where they could talk without being easily overheard. "I did some digging into Horizon Technologies' public contracts," Hyunwoo said quietly. "They specialize in advanced communication systems, but there's a division that has no public presence, just a budget line called Special Projects that gets millions in funding each year." Yoonha looked worried. "The lawsuit has been escalated. They're claiming Jinwoo violated multiple federal laws related to espionage and critical infrastructure protection. The judge seems confused by the case but isn't dismissing it." "This is bigger than we thought," Minji said. "I contacted a journalist who covers government secrecy. He mentioned something called the Starwatch Group, former intelligence officers who continued unofficial work after their program was shut down." Hyunwoo suddenly looked up from his laptop. "I just got access to Mr. Kim's property records. The deed shows the land is officially owned by a shell company, but the utility bills are paid by Horizon's Special Projects Division." Jinwoo rubbed his temples. "So a private company is running what looks like a SETI program in a suburban neighborhood, and they're using the legal system to silence me for accidentally seeing it." "There's more," Minji said. "My journalism contact arranged a meeting with someone who might know more. They'll only meet in person at the park tomorrow morning." The next day, Jinwoo and Minji sat on a bench near the duck pond. A man in his 50s approached slowly, checking his surroundings before sitting beside them. "My name is Sunwoo," he said quietly. "I worked for Starlight Division until it was officially disbanded. What I'm about to tell you is still technically classified." He spoke carefully, keeping his voice low. 15 years ago, our monitoring stations detected an unusual signal pattern from deep space. It wasn't random. It contained mathematical sequences that couldn't be natural. But it was faint, inconsistent. We needed more evidence before reporting up the chain. Sunwoo paused, watching a family walk past. When the program was shut down for budget reasons, some of us believed the work was too important to abandon. A core group continued privately, with funding from sympathetic sources in the defense industry. Horizon Technologies, Minji whispered. Sunwoo nodded. The network operates from ordinary houses in residential areas, less conspicuous than government facilities. Mr. Kim runs one of the key stations. What have they found? Jinwoo asked. 6 months ago, the pattern changed. The signals became stronger, more frequent. They believe it's attempting communication. Sunwoo's voice became intense. Your drone flew over at the worst possible time. They had just recorded the strongest signal yet, and they feared your equipment might have interfered with or recorded their data. As Sunwoo finished speaking, Jinwoo noticed 2 men in dark suits entering the park from different directions. Sunwoo saw them too. They'd followed me, he said, standing quickly. Listen, there's a government oversight committee that doesn't know about Starwatch's continued operations. Contact Senator Jae-hyuk's office. His aide Suman can help you. Sunwoo walked away rapidly, disappearing down a path between thick shrubs. The 2 men changed direction, following him. Back at Minji's apartment, the group tried to process what they'd learned. This is incredible, Hyunwoo said. They think they've detected alien signals, and they're operating a private monitoring network to track them. And they're willing to crush a student with legal threats to keep it secret, Yoonha added. Jinwoo stared out the window. We need to contact Senator Jae-hyuk's office, and we need a plan for the court hearing next week. I have an idea, Minji said slowly, but it's risky. If the Starwatch group really has detected something from deep space, that information shouldn't belong to a private group. The world deserves to know. As they discussed their options, Jinwoo's phone received a text from an unknown number. Backup drives secure. Court records copied. Meet at University Observatory tonight at 11. Come alone. Jinwoo arrived at the University Observatory 10 minutes early. The hilltop building was dark except for a single light in the entrance. He approached cautiously, ready to run if anything seemed suspicious. A figure emerged from the shadows. It was Suman, Senator Jae-hyuk's aide. Thank you for coming, she said, unlocking the observatory door. We don't have much time. Inside, she handed Jinwoo a flash drive. This contains copies of the files Sunwoo managed to extract before they caught up with him. He's safe, but he can't help you anymore. Jinwoo took the drive. What's on it? Evidence of the Starwatch Group's operations, including recordings of the signals they've detected. Suman's expression was serious. The senator has been briefed on your situation. He sits on the Intelligence Oversight Committee and wants to know why a government program is continuing privately without supervision. Back at Minji's apartment, the group examined the files. They contained technical data, signal recordings, and internal communications between Starwatch members. The most recent files included discussions about a pattern of signals that had grown stronger and more regular over the past 6 months. This is incredible, Professor Taho said when they showed him the data the next day. These patterns show clear mathematical sequences. If these are genuine, they're almost certainly artificial in origin. 2 days before the court hearing, Jinwoo received a call from an unknown number. Mr. Park, a formal voice said. This is Mr. Kim's legal representative. We would like to arrange a private meeting to discuss resolving our dispute. The meeting was set for a small conference room in a downtown office building. Jinwoo brought Yoonha as his legal representative. Mr. Kim arrived with one lawyer and a stern-looking woman who introduced herself as the director of Horizon Technology's Special Projects Division. We understand you have sensitive materials that were obtained without authorization, the lawyer began. Yoonha interrupted. Let's be clear. My client legally recorded footage during a hobby flight. Any sensitive materials you're referring to were visible from public airspace. The lawsuit against Mr. Park will be dropped. Mr. Kim said suddenly, speaking for the first time. In exchange, we require all copies of the drone footage and any derived data to be surrendered. Jinwoo leaned forward. Before we discuss terms, I want to know what I accidentally discovered. What exactly are you monitoring in that backyard setup? The room fell silent. Finally, the Horizon director spoke. Our work involves detecting and analyzing certain signal patterns from deep space. The nature of these signals is potentially significant to national security. You mean they might be non-human in origin? Jinwoo said. Mr. Kim's expression remained neutral. That is one theory we investigate. Jinwoo took a deep breath. Here's my counteroffer. The lawsuit is dropped completely. I sign your non-disclosure agreement about the specific technology and location. But I maintain the right to publish my theoretical research on signal detection methods without mentioning your operation. Unacceptable, the lawyer began, but Mr. Kim raised his hand. Why would we agree to this? He asked. Because Senator Jae-hyuk's office has copies of everything I have, Jinwoo replied calmly. And the senator has questions about why a terminated government program continues to operate privately. The meeting ended with a tense agreement. The lawsuit would be dismissed. Jinwoo would sign an NDA about Star Watch's specific operations, but retain the right to publish theoretical work. And Senator Jae-hyuk's office would be officially briefed on the program's findings. 3 months later, Jinwoo stood nervously at the podium in a university conference room. His paper, Theoretical Methods for Detecting Low-Intensity Radio Signals of Unknown Origin, had drawn unexpected attention from the scientific community. In conclusion, he said to the packed room, the mathematical patterns I've modeled suggest that properly configured detection systems could identify non-random sequences, even in extremely weak signals from deep space. This has implications for how we might recognize potential non-human transmissions. After the presentation, a woman in a crisp suit approached him. She handed him a business card for the Aerospace Advanced Research Institute. We're interested in your work, Mr. Park, she said. We have a special project that might benefit from your perspective. The card had a small logo in the corner, the same logo Jinwoo had seen on Horizon Technologies documents. Would this involve practical applications? Jinwoo asked carefully. The woman smiled slightly. Let's just say we're moving beyond theoretical work. The signals have continued, and they're getting stronger. We need people who can think creatively about what happens when first contact becomes undeniable. She handed him an envelope. This contains a job offer and security clearance forms. We believe humanity should be prepared for what's coming. Are you interested in being part of that preparation? Jinwoo thought about the incredible journey that had brought him here, from a simple drone flight to the edge of humanity's greatest discovery. Yes, he said. I'm ready.